Do you guys see the mapping being able to include some type of speed test data? Because I mean, we do a lot of feasibility work, and we triangulate all the speed test data that's out there, both M Labs, UCLA, et cetera. And then we work a lot of times like with Megan's group to obviously help write these grants, but then we'll then do speed testing within the community and partner with the Chamber of Commerce, and then we validate and triangulate all that information, and then put it against the 477 data. And of course, it's always dramatically different, but it really gives us a statistical sample, and then we go out in that given area and we actually go on to the competitors' websites and enter enough local addresses to get a relevant statistical sample of what we really understand the coverage to be in a given area for competition to help that municipality, really figure out what the opportunity is. So like we are able to create an amazing view. It's honestly not rocket science. It's a little bit of heavy lifting and partnering with the community, but we then provide an incredible relevant view of what's really, really happening. And I always find it so interesting that we can't replicate this at a national level.
Brian, are you making that map available publicly? What do you do when you do this in your work at Bonfire?
It's typically as part of our consulting, as we're working with a client up front in the beginning of a project stage, and they're trying to figure out, Drew, what are the options? What should we consider? What business models? And part of that is really to understand, well, what does the competition have, and where is it, in your area? Because every one of these deployments is a bit different. I always like to say they're like a snowflake, right? They all have their idiosyncrasies, because if someone already has really, really good coverage in a given area, the municipality doesn't have to focus on, the entire area build if there's already coverage and some competition, right? But then giving them that view is the magic, quite frankly. But it's something, Drew, that could be created on a national level. It's just something our team and a bunch of smart programmers have figured out how to do to help give that
Right.
view to somebody, right?
Yeah, we had just 2 weeks ago on our Broadband Breakfast Live Online a discussion about broadband mapping and data. We tend to do one every 2 months, right? We had one on Groundhog Day, one in April, and just 2 weeks ago, and there was a lot of discussion about speed tests. Per your question, Nick, just a moment ago, that speed tests are going to be vital. Now, I don't think that's on what has been done thus far at the FCC, but the NTIA is definitely spoken about the need to verify data. And I mean, let me just step back a little bit here. I've obviously followed this broadband mapping stuff for more than 15 years. Broadband Breakfast originally began as Broadband Census. We were a data collection effort. We prompted the first lawsuit against the Federal Communications Commission to get Form 477 data. We lost the battle, but we won the war, so to speak, in that the 2009 Broadband Recovery Act did require the creation of a census block by census block map of carrier availability. Well, that is not good enough, as we've obviously learned, particularly when you're assuming that everyone in a census block is covered because one person is covered. That's the flaw that's being addressed now that we have address level mapping. But the other piece that's so important here is that we need to make sure we're including reliability. We're including measurements of speed. We're including physical maps. Now, maybe there's not going to be the unicorn map that has it all. Maybe we're going to just be in a heterogeneous period where lots of different people have maps, some of which are closed and proprietary, some of which are open to some extent, because I think it is crucial, like Russ was saying, we do have to have some degree of public accountability, and these nonsense arguments about confidentiality and proprietary nature that have been around for 15 years are just that, nonsense. These are businesses that are offering their services to the public. Well, just like, Yelp or Google will have reviews, and restaurants are rated. We should sure as heck be able to rate our broadband providers, to do speed tests, to link them to the providers, and then importantly, to be able to allow new entrants to come in and compete to build networks. And that obviously is what we're hearing from the NTIA. They're not running from the term overbuilding, which most politicians do run from, because that's what we're going to need if we want to get higher capacity broadband in this country, is more overbuilding of low capacity networks with high capacity networks. So the big picture perspective here is that mapping is done oftentimes for different purposes. Sometimes it's done to advertise your products. Sometimes it's done to promote reverse auctions of underserved areas. Sometimes it's designed to provide accountability through speed tests of the measures or the claimed measurements of providers. But we also need to remember that it's going to be important to sort of show, hey, this is where there's some lacking, and this is where an entrepreneurial new internet provider, whether that's Siskiyou, is that how you say it, Russ? Whether it's right, yeah. Siskiyou Telephone, or whether it's an electric co-op, or a city that feels that not everyone in their city is getting the service they need. These are all, in my view, legitimate and valid reasons for why you'd want a better broadband map.